Welcome to Radio Dinsdale. I am Ricky Berger.
And I am Scott Feldman, and this is episode 2 of Beneath the Hedgehog.
Beneath, underneath, on the underside, the soft underbelly of the hedgehog. So tonight, we are going to give our list of bad advice you get in the music industry.
Yes, and this is starting, and this is the first thing we can discuss. I got an email yesterday, and it's a piece of advice for songwriters. And the advice is, use single word song titles because they give your listeners an instant picture in their mind of what the song is about. They're easy to remember. They're great starting points for your writing. And single word song titles are fun, and that's italicized, fun to come up with.
Wow.
And and to validate this theory, studies show that shorter song titles tend to be more popular than longer song titles. The highest selling single of all time, Yesterday.
Yesterday. It's like that joke, Know It, I Wrote It. Remember those song titles?
Yes.
We can't give any of those song titles.
Okay, I mean, do you think if they'd only called it Stairway instead of Stairway to Heaven, Zeppelin would have sold more?
Yeah. So what you're saying is this is bullshit.
Yeah.
If
you're
agree.
worrying more about the title of the song than the lyrics or music.
So your first piece of bad advice is don't listen to someone telling you to make a simple song title.
Right.
Okay. I agree with that. Do you have anything else you want to add? Or is because I got dinner plans.
Look, hey.
We're going to present today a lot of these pieces of bad advice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your first one, right?
That's the first one.
Do you want me to give you one?
Please.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so number 2. I love this one. I'm holding a piece of paper in my hand because it's got something from a music forum that people are asking. Should I join ASCAP or should I join BMI?
Okay.
So the question is asked as follows. Hi, I'm a producer, songwriter, rapper, singer, and I wanted to know, should I join BMI or ASCAP, and why should I? I've been wanting to, but I can't decide which one to join, but I will join as a producer. But what are the exact reasons for joining? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And also, are there any licensing companies? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Best answer given by, can you say this name? Look at this, his logo. What's that guy's name there given the answer?
It's Avener Pimpin.
It's Avener Pimpin, a professional expert who's going to give the best answer chosen by voters. And here's the best answer. Neither. Both companies are going to rape you, man. Music licensing is actually not hard. You can just Google it and find legitimate solutions to license your music. Labels these days are taking a percentage of everything you make. Independent, especially if you feel your production is really strong, would be the way to go. Royalty check money without labels is the best in the world. You sit around, you make your beats, and you wait for the checks to come without anybody taking cash from you. Sources from what's that guy's name again? How do you say that?
It's Avener Pimpin.
It's Avener Pimpin, and if you hear us, please call in. We have no number. Sources, his sources are many years studying independent artist marketing and business. That's the stupidest answer that's the stupidest piece of advice I've ever seen given to an independent artist for a number of reasons. Do you want to start as to why it's stupid, or should I start?
No, after you.
After me. Number 1. So your song gets played on the radio. Mexican radio, American radio, no matter. Your song's played on the radio, and then you're supposed to get a performance fee for the song, right, Scott?
Yes.
How do they know that you played on the radio?
Oh, probably because you would have registered with,
Who?
ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC.
And those are performance rights organizations. And then when the song plays on the radio, they have to write a cue sheet or a log that goes back to ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. And it says, Scott Feldman's song played today 4 times. When that happens, then what happens for you? What do you get in the mail someday?
Money.
A check. Okay. So if you don't belong to ASCAP or BMI or CSAC, they're never going to know. No one's ever going to know. You're never going to know that your song got played on the radio, correct?
Correct.
So are you going to ever receive a check?
No.
No. I don't know how this pimping guy, let me just read this again. He sits around, he makes his beats, and he I'm sorry, I finally get it. He waits for his checks without anybody taking cash for him. You know what he's doing right now at home?
Waiting.
He's waiting. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and all ships at sea, if you're an independent musician, or not, but if you are, you need to become a member of ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. Those are the three terrestrial performance rights organizations, and they also pay royalties for online streaming as well. Why do you do that? You do that so if you get radio play, or if otherwise your songs are publicly performed, including in television, motion picture, or other venues, but on the radio as well, or on internet radio, you get a chance to be paid for that. That's the real advice. That's number 2.
That's number 2.
Want to go with number 3?
I will do number 3.
It's all yours.
You can just buy Facebook fans.
Can you?
Oh, sure.
Tell us about how, and by the way, of course, you're a marketing guru.
Yes.
Feldman is, boys and girls. Feldman is a marketing guru for independent musicians. Tell us why that's shitty advice.
Here's how this works. I look at Madonna's Facebook page, and she's got 15 million fans. So she must be awesome because she has 15 million fans. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buy a bunch of Facebook fans, and I'll have the same number as Madonna, and thus I will be as awesome as Madonna.
Okay, why is that not true?
When you buy Facebook fans, you end up getting fans in places like Albania.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Guadalajara,
or all kinds of awful places. And most of
whoa! There's nothing wrong with Guadalajara.
Guadalajara won't do. So ultimately, they're not real fans. They have no interest in your music. They have no interest in helping you become a better artist.
Are they going to show up at my event?
No.
But I bought them.
I know.
So wait a minute, hold on, because I really don't know. What does it mean to purchase a fan?
It means if you go to your Facebook page, your fan page, and you've got 500 fans on your page, and you want that number to really be 5,000,
okay,
you just go and buy fans. And basically there's a company somewhere, there are many of them, that just have all kinds of fake Facebook profiles. And they have those people go and click like on your page.
Oh, you're freaking kidding me.
And suddenly your numbers are much higher.
So who is that? Okay, so I'm a local band. I'm an indie band from Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay. And so I decide, all right, we have 200 likes.
Yes.
Or fans. It's a fan page, right? We have 200 fans. So I'm going to have 3,000 fans.
Mm-hmm.
Why strategically am I doing that? Am I doing that to show like a local venue where I want to play that we have a bunch of fans? Or?
It's basically, in a rather perverse way, you think size matters.
Yes.
No one will take me seriously if I don't have at least 5,000 fans on my Facebook page.
Okay.
And that's not to negate the power of having a large fan base. That's very important.
Right.
But, fake fans just to show a number is dumb and a waste of your money.
So, okay, that's shitty advice. What's the good advice about that?
The good advice is you can do some advertising on Facebook to help develop a local or a targeted fan base of people who may be interested in your music. It doesn't mean you should dump thousands of dollars a month into Facebook advertising, but a small amount is good to both reach new fans and to also increase your exposure to the fans you have.
That makes sense. So, sort of a story from my rock and roll past. When I was on the road as a kid, way back when, way before the internet, we had a clipboard and people would sign their names and give their phone numbers. So we had 200 or 300 people on that list. When we would play a club and, we were There was no club that we played that was greater than 40 miles from our center, which was Waltham, Mass. If we were playing somewhere on Friday night, we would get on the phone starting Wednesday and call everybody on the list and say, "You guys coming to the club? You coming to the club?" And beg. We would beg. Begging is a great thing to make sure we could get 100 people to come to the club. And we routinely did that. And we brought in a lot more people than a lot of other bands because they weren't close with their list. It's the same thing, right? It's like, are your fans really fans, and are they engaged?
The other piece of advice.
I'm right. Is that right? Okay.
Yes. The
Okay.
piece of advice that this leads to is the best thing you can have for a fan is an email address.
Right. And a direct connection.
People are more responsive to requests and actions in email than they are across any other social media platform.
Does that have to be a personal, like, email from someone to that one fan, or can it be something that's like through Constant Contact or
Constant Contact,
MailChimp?
MailChimp, Vertical Response, Emma, Fanbridge, Bronto. There's a million of them.
Okay. All right. That was excellent bad advice followed by good advice. Thank you, Mr. Feldman.
Thank you,
Should I
Mr.
go with the next stupid mistake or advice you get in the music industry?
By all means.
Okay, copyright infringement. We've covered this before.
17 USC 107.
107 is fair use.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Fair use. Fair use. People say, and I've heard attorneys say, that you can take up to, and I forget, they have different rules, 3 seconds of some song and it's not copyright infringement, or one measure or two measures and it's not copy. The bad advice is that there's some quantifiable amount that you're allowed to legitimately, absolutely, strictly take. And so long as you take no more of that, you've not engaged in copyright infringement. That is bullshit.
Okay.
It is. Never listen to anyone who tells you, oh, you can take one measure or two measures. And we've talked about this, and I've done this lick before. Do, 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 do. What, is that two measures? Einstein, is that two measures or one measure? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, 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 do. It's one measure, isn't it? We're all counting. We're all musicians. We're all counting on our fingers here in the studio, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, that's copyright infringement. You take that one measure, that is the essence of that song and the later Vanilla Ice song that was copyright infringement.
No, that was MC Hammer.
Oh, that was MC Hammer.
Vanilla Ice was doon doon doon.
Oh,
doon,
they
doon,
took.
doon,
Oh,
doon.
he took David. Was it David Bowie or Queen or both?
David Bowie and Queen.
And Queen. Oh, because Bowie wrote that with Queen.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So that advice that you can take some small amount and that it's quantifiable is not true. It's awful advice. Don't follow that advice.
I can give you a $735 million example of that.
Oh, please do.
So yesterday, Groove Shark announced that they were shutting down their service. And Groove Shark was something like a Spotify or a whatever,
Right.
where all these different kinds of music were available, and you just click play, and it's totally free, and it's awesome. And you can even upload your own music or other people's music that you chose to upload. And the industry was like all up in arms about this because there were no royalties being paid. There was no licensing involved.
Really,
There
at
was
all?
Nothing. And this went on for years. So they got sued. And yesterday, I'm going to read this to you.
Please do.
Because it's just awesome. Yesterday. Dear music fans, today we are shutting down Groove Shark. We started out nearly 10 years ago with the goal of helping fans share and discover music. But despite the best of intentions, we made very serious mistakes.
Oh.
It only took them 10 years to figure this out. We failed to secure licenses from rights holders for the vast amount of music on the service. That was wrong. We apologize without reservation.
Can I put a footnote here?
Please.
It's called settlement letter.
Yeah.
Settlement agreement. They're saying this because all of what you're reading was negotiated. I guarantee it. So they don't have to. So terrible things don't happen to them. Keep going.
Just skipping ahead.
Skip
if
ahead,
you
skipping.
love music and respect the artists, because apparently they don't, songwriters, and everyone else who makes great music possible, use a licensed service that compensates artists and other rights holders. You can find out more about the many great services available where you live by clicking this link.
You know what's really hard to do? To actually crucify yourself.
They've done it.
Can you help me get this last nail in, please?
Groove Shark just held up a middle finger to everybody.
Wow.
And shockingly, they found 735 million reasons why they should shut down their service.
Wow.
And suddenly...
Wait, where's the 735 million reasons come from?
The amount of the number of dollars in the lawsuit brought against them by Universal.
But it's settled, right? This is part of... Is it settled now?
Yeah, this is the settlement.
This is the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like the story of mp3.com, which we won't do the whole story, but it's a hilarious story about trying to illegally rip every song that's ever been recorded because some guy wanted to do it. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story. Look it up on your own. So the next piece of bad advice is whose? Yours? Okay, hold on. Let me go find something. I'll be right back. Okay, I just looked and realized something.
Yep.
It's not my turn. It's your turn.
Oh. Well, there you go.
There you go.
So I think my answer or my next piece of bad advice is you need to hire a really good manager and pay them a lot of money.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Managers are really good, but they're not a magic bullet. In other words, if you're really not that good, a manager isn't going to make you better.
Right.
A good friend of ours, a fellow named Phil Antoniadis, would offer the following advice, which is brilliant. And he said, you're ready for a manager when a manager is ready for you.
I love Phil. We got to get Phil on the show.
Sure.
Phil is a great and wise man and an excellent entrepreneur.
Not a bad drummer.
He's a great drummer. He's a fantastic drummer. So here's my take on the manager thing.
Yeah.
I've represented a lot of managers who are young and just getting started. And I have known managers who have been my students at UMass Lowell and have become managers. There's a place for that young upstart manager who doesn't have a deep Rolodex yet, right?
Absolutely. But if you think, you know what, my music's not going anywhere, and it's clearly because they don't have a good manager,
maybe your music's not
maybe your music just
ready.
Sucks.
Okay, that's true. But the other thing I've sort of learned is sometimes you're not exactly ready yet, but that person, that young person, that manager who adores you is going to help you get molded to the place where your music's going to get to the next level. And then you'll be ready for the big manager. So a couple things. No, go ahead.
If a manager thinks there's money to be made by working with you, he will or she will work with you. But they're not in this for charity.
No, absolutely. I have a friend who he and I were going to manage a band, and we didn't. But our goal was to take the band to a certain point, and we had some connections where we could take the band to a certain international point, we thought, following which we would be bought out because our Rolodex, and I think a lot of a great manager is about vision, but Rolodex. You know, having those contacts to take you to the really biggest places. And when I advise young managers on their contract, I try to get buyout provisions for my manager and have them go in with their eyes open that, like, look, you want to help the band? That's awesome. Let's make sure that you can get bought out because there's going to be a point. If you do your job, they're going to be above your skill set. And then you want to hand them off. It's like raising a child and giving the child off. And, I mean, I think that's important, too. I also I knew a musical artist, an independent musical artist, who was wonderful. I adored her. She ended up having a manager / producer who was the president of a major label who wanted to help her. And I'm using air quotes right now. And the first thing that he did for her to come on board with him was to get a check from her for $25,000. And you know what? I like this guy, right? I really do, but that's bullshit. That is not how it's supposed to work, and it cuts right into what you say, which is you may not be ready, and just writing a giant check may not do it. So, and one more thing on that, Einstein, will you hand me my phone? Because I got a text at 3 o'clock yesterday morning from an artist who wanted me to find that artist a manager, and it was in the world of hip hop where I'm a rock and roll guy. Word. I'm not competent to judge it. I don't have the skill set, or I'm not tied in correctly, but I have friends who are. And I had someone at UMass whose opinion I really respect listen to the music. And so I got a text back from the artist, any news yet? And I reported back the following. My contact was not interested. He didn't find you or your music original or timely enough now. It happens. Rejection's a part of the game. I don't have anyone else to show you at this time, but keep going and just try to be as current as possible and keep pushing the envelope. That's what I wrote back. And then he wrote back to me, and I won't say what he wrote, but it wasn't awesome. And then I read that to my class to ask my class, am I being too harsh?
Nope.
Why am I not being too harsh?
Because
when I did that at 3:00 yesterday morning.
Because the truth hurts sometimes. And if you're an artist, you have to be you can't only get advice from people that are going to like you.
Right.
That doesn't help you. You know.
So in other words, what you're saying too is if I write a giant check for a major manager who may not even like me, I may not move my career forward at all.
No, because that manager goes, you know what? I got the money.
Right.
I worked with an artist about a year ago who had a lot of money available to her. Vast sums of money, huge tracts of land. And
what, the curtains?
every time she had a gig, she would basically have her family at the gig. She had a big family, and they were influential, and they could have people come to her gig.
Right.
So the gigs would sell out.
But when you say sell out, what are you talking about, 100, 1,000?
No, we're talking like 120, 150 people.
Okay, a room at a nice club.
Right. The problem was there were no new fans. It was just a matter of the same people coming to see her as a favor. They weren't really that interested in her music, but they didn't want to offend the family, so they came to the gigs. And her fan base never grew.
See, that's why, like in my friendship with you, I'm never worried that you won't offend me.
Oh, shut up.
I come to rely upon it. So, finally, in this mistake, it's like you can't just pay a lot of money for a manager. You may not need a manager at this moment in time, but still, having a manager at the right time can be an awesome thing.
Right. And just a slight addition to that, being able to have a budget and spend money on certain things is good. Being able to hire an assistant, for example, if you can't handle whatever it is you're doing, updating or managing your website or just coordinating your social media strategies. It doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of dollars a month, though you can. But what it means is I need to focus on the things that I'm good at and get help with the things that I'm not.
Well, you always say that when you're running your own, band or as an artist, you're running your own career, you have to learn to run it like you're a small business person.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all right. I think that that's excellent. The next one's mine.
Sure.
Okay. Bad piece of advice. You don't need to know the music industry if you have a great manager. You've heard that before, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crap. You need to know all the things that we started this company to teach you, which is you need to know publishing, you need to know copyright law, you need to know how to promote yourself in the industry. If you know how to engineer, that's great. If you know your way around the recording studio and how it works, that's great. If you know how tours are booked, that's great. The more that you learn, especially because you are going to be that business owner, that small business owner. I mean, Jeff Beck is a small business owner because it's a small little group with a lot of cash. The Rolling Stones is a big corporation. But if you want to succeed, you have to know the business. You can't be pretty, drunk, and stupid and a great player and be a star. You can't. You have to know. I guess it's theoretically possible you can be, but you significantly reduce your odds of success if you really don't know what you're doing.
Right. There's a certain inherent level of trust you have to put into people.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be critical, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't do a little research in advance. I have no problem when potential clients come to me and say, do you have any references? Can you show us some examples of your work? That makes perfect sense. They're doing their due diligence. but, you know, he's a nice guy. I think I'll hire him. Oh, his brother's cousin's former college roommate once knew a guy who worked at a label.
Right.
Yeah. No.
I was once at a major recording session with a major act, and in the control booth, the lead singer was reviewing the record contract. This was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a lawyer yet. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. He's actually reading his own contract. And somebody said, oh, yeah, he's really smart. He does all of his deals. He knows all the deals inside and out. And at that point in time, I had never seen, I had seen a lot of, artists, including bigger artists in these settings, but I'd never seen anyone either talk about or read anything relating to their career. It was always just doing the thing, right? And now it seems to be much more the norm that you understand you have to understand how your career operates. And that's that. Okay. Who's got the next mistake, me or you?
I think it's my turn.
Go.
No, it's fine. We have an agreement.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be in writing.
We don't need contracts.
Contracts.
We have a handshake agreement.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Now, who's doing that? Band members are doing that with each other?
Everybody's doing it with each other.
Everybody is. It's like an epidemic.
Yeah.
Well, the band thing, I get all the time because people come to me as counsel and say, hey, what should we do? And I say, you need an LLC. You need a partnership agreement. We have to talk about who owns the rights to the songs. The songs you've already written, the songs you're going to write, what you're going to do, who's going to get the money for the sneaker endorsements, whatever.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's very easy to come to an agreement when there's no money in front of you.
That's when you do it.
Right. But suddenly when there's a big deal in front of you and there's millions of dollars on the line and your buddy says, no, I wrote that song, not you. Or
this is way after the red button's been pushed and everything's been done, right?
Yeah. All of a sudden, no. Or when the manager says, you know what? I'm going to own half your royalties going forward because that's what we agreed to 17 years ago when we shook hands.
Right.
So
I had an artist that I performed lead guitar on on his album, and we had a falling out, and I'm sorry that we did. This is years later now. Mm-hmm. He's a nice guy, and I'm sorry we had a falling out. We had a real falling out over a tough issue, and it only took one email to say, you can't release any of the songs with my lead guitar on it. There was no work for hire agreement. You can take it out, or we can talk. Mm-hmm. And then something else happened. But I had that power for one reason and one reason alone. There was no written agreement. Mm-hmm. So for the bands out there, you got to do this. I know it seems hard, but it's not hard. And like Scott says, and Scott's right,
yes,
you do it when there's no money on the table. You do it when you're in the beginning of the creation of your organization. That's exactly when you do it, because when you try to do it later, it's really, really difficult. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's... Who gives that advice? I think people give that to each other. It's ridiculous. Okay, next piece of advice comes from from me, relating to the recording contract. The concept of cross-collateralization. Big legal term, all right? Cross-collateralization is when revenue in one area is used to pay expenses in another area. So, for instance, your royalties for the album, for the sale of the album, being used to pay the expenses of the music video for the album. Big, big mistake. And if you're not a seasoned entertainment attorney, I mean, God forbid you have anyone other than an entertainment attorney reviewing a recording contract, because it's highly specific. But, I mean, how much does it cost to record an album? A major album. Scott, how much do you think?
$500,000, million.
I think, tops. Nowadays, it's
unless it's a Steely Dan album, then it's just
you got to interview you got to audition everybody. I mean, I think it's tops now, like $500,000 to do a major, because costs have come down. But how much does it cost to record a music video?
Also, it can be pretty pricey.
Yeah, lots of times a major album comes in at $250,000, and the music video can be $1 million. Lots of times, and in the recording contract, recording contract's a negotiation, but it's a negotiation that involves, among other things, what's the budget going to be for the video? Who's going to shoot the video? Who's going to have artistic control of the video? And the concept of cross-collateralization. It's hard enough in your, especially debut album, to actually make a dime, even if you've gone platinum, right? But if you cross-collateralize and you say that any of the money that you make, which otherwise would be paid to you for the music album, for the music sales, is going to go to the expenses for the music video, you're screwing yourself.
One small addition to that, and this won't apply to a lot of sort of upstart artists, but if you're at a point where you have a contract with your manager and he's paid on a commission basis, commission on net, not commission on gross.
Right. We can talk about, that. Well, let's talk about that now.
So here's the deal.
Yep.
Let's say you recorded an album and it cost $1 million, big silly numbers. It cost $1 million to make it.
Okay.
And then the album is released and you sell $500,000 worth of records.
All right.
CDs.
Right.
Cassette tapes.
So you have $500,000 in gross revenue.
Yep. $500,000 in gross revenue, $1 million in expenses.
Right.
Manager is paid on gross sales of the record.
Right. So 15% of gross. So 15% of $500,000 is what he's going to take.
Right, which would be $75,000.
Right.
So your record cost $1 million to make.
Right.
You sold $500,000 worth of music.
Right.
$75,000 right away goes to the manager.
Yeah. So now you're at $1,075,000.
Yeah. Well, less the difference. But the point is,
$575,000. You're still in the hole.
You're still in the hole for your record, but your manager will now have made more money than you did on your record.
That's that whole Steve Albini piece, which I love. What's wrong with the music industry? Right. But that's absolutely correct.
So net, not gross.
Net, and understand the difference between net and gross. Gross is just the amount of dollars that came in.
Net is what's there after expense.
Right. That's exactly right. And lots of people don't understand that because it's an accounting thing. And if you're telling a musician we have to talk about an accounting principle, their eyes roll into the back of their heads.
Musicians can only count to 4.
No, some things are in 11/8. I was talking about 11/8 yesterday.
Okay.
But nonetheless, okay, whose mistake is it now? Mine. Yours? Mine? It's mine. All right, so look. Here's the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about your live performance because, the music's awesome. Critical mistake. You're a musician, right? You perform live, right?
Right.
That's a visual performance. All right. Worst band I ever saw live.
The Cars.
The fact that you can say that so quickly about a band I love and be absolutely correct is appalling. Because I thought they were, what a great band. But watching the Cars live was, oh my God. It matters. How you dress matters. I mean, I grew up in the world of classic rock and roll, and I don't like it when I see some lead guitar player come out with a T-shirt and shorts and not care about his visual performance.
So you're not really much of a Jimmy Buffett fan, are you?
I'm not liking it.
No.
I really think that you need to put into the show something spectacular so that people feel, oh my God, I'm going to go see that show. I mean, you just watch a print show. You watch people that really know how to put a show on, and I think it's very important. If anyone tells you it doesn't matter, I think it's bullshit. I mean, do you think I'm right or?
Well, I mean, live performance is a thing. If people aren't going to buy your music, then you're going to assume they're going to want to come to your show, and that's going to be your revenue stream.
Oh, so they like you, but they're not going to buy you music because that's not the model.
In general,
perhaps.
People are listening to Spotify or whatever, so they're not buying music. So if you got to figure out a place to make your money, maybe it's live performance.
Right.
And if that's the case, then yeah, you should put a little more effort into your live show.
Excellent. All right. Next mistake.
Okay.
Go.
This is a big one that artists tend to make all the time. I'll get to that later. For example, I got a call 4 days ago from a very well-known musician who has sold millions of records.
Okay.
Or CDs or whatever.
Oh, I know this story.
Yeah. And says, my new album is coming out tomorrow. Can you completely redo the website so it looks like the new record?
And to which you replied.
And to which I replied, well, I'll do my best, but I wish you'd given me just a little more notice.
This is your client, right? Is this one of your clients?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Here's the thing. When you are in the process of coming up with a new project, the time to start thinking about promoting that project is right now. You should have a website and a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. You should start developing the pathways that are to get you to the point where people will be interested in the new product. Teasing the announcements, talking about the recording process, inviting people along for the ride, and building a level of engagement and affinity that is going to make them feel like they're somehow a stakeholder in the final result.
Those are a lot of corporate words.
I know.
Don't you just want fans that really love you?
Yeah, but
that's what you just said.
At the end of the
right? That's what you just said.
Yes and no. At the end of the day, you are trying to be a musician, not a waiter who makes music. You want to be a musician. You want to make your living based upon your musical pursuits. So if the album is coming out next week, don't start on the website now. You should have started on it 3 months ago.
Right.
Don't suddenly create the Facebook page and talk about it constantly. You should have been talking about it all along. There's a process for these things. You're always building towards something. Don't try and create the mailing list an hour before your album is released.
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes absolute sense. Okay, next mistake. You don't need to have a publisher or even understand what a publisher does.
What does a publisher do?
A publisher's job is to take the songs that you've written, that you're the author of, the underlying musical work, also called the composition.
17
blah,
USC
blah,
107.
Blah, blah. That's fair use.
Doesn't matter. Everything is 17 USC 107.
Right. Okay, all is all right. The publisher takes that stuff and exploits it. The publisher finds a place for your music all over the place because the publisher's only real job is to make hay when the sun shines. So you can't be out there all the time trying to get your songs on TV, in film, having people cover your songs. Like, I'm a songwriter. What would I really love? I'd love for a couple of my songs to be covered by a major artist. Mm-hmm. Why? One, so I get to say that happened. But two, and much more importantly, am I ever going to sell 1 million units of a song that I record? No. Never going to happen. But if a song that I record or if a song that you wrote and record, gets done by a major artist, an artist who is highly popular, that could sell 1 million units.
Absolutely.
You get a check for that. And what else you get a check for when it plays on the radio? The fact it played on the radio.
Yes. But what's also a key thing to consider is you can't just call Mick Jagger and say, hey, you should record my song.
How come I can't just call Mick Jagger?
Well, A, because you probably don't have his number, and B, because he doesn't want your number. There are publishing agencies and companies who have the contacts and the connections that if they find something good, they're going to get it to the right people. It's a great thing.
But wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah. But if I can find Mick Jagger's number, won't he listen to my song?
No.
Why?
Because it's called stalking.
It's called something else too, but yeah. In the industry, you can't approach an artist with an original song. And it's not that they're just being, highbrowed about it or snobby. It's because under the copyright law, in order to prove copyright infringement by inference, you have to prove 2 elements. One, that whoever alleged to have stolen the song had access to the material. And 2, or B, there was a substantial similarity between that thing they had access to and the alleged infringing work. So, here's what happens. Because everyone's been sued for copyright infringement. If I try to get a song to somebody who's famous and they don't know me, I'm not a quote-unquote trusted source, you will never get the song to them because they don't want to get sued, period. That's how the industry works. So like Scott said, it's only a trusted source like a publisher who has real connections to producers and supervisors. That's the only way the song's coming in.
And I can just as a footnote to this, a piece of good advice, there are companies that are in the business of helping indie artists get their music placed.
Yes. That's what it's called, placements.
Yes. I can highly recommend a company called Audio Socket.
Okay.
They're Seattle-based, and they're very good at getting your music placed in places. And, you know,
how much does it cost to be involved with them?
It costs you nothing to add your music. You split commission with them when your music is then used.
How do they place the music? Do they listen to your music and then seek to place you?
It goes a couple of ways. First of all, anybody can go to their website and license a piece of music. So if we wanted to add new theme music, we could go and license a track.
Okay.
At the same time, they also have contacts with larger companies that are looking for a place to put independent music. So, for example, I had a client and I worked with Audio Socket and got their song used in a Petco commercial.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How much did that pay?
I don't know if I should say. It paid a good amount of money.
Yeah, you know, when you get advertising spots, they can pay a lot of dough.
So, but here's the thing. The band is now somewhat more notable, or can at least claim notability, because they sold so many records, they did this, they did that, and their music has been featured in a, you know, major commercial.
Yep.
And that will help them in turn get licensed again for something else.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. Mm-hmm. Now, in that case, a company like that, or there are other companies as well, some that may do as good a job or not as good a job. I'm not going to name any other names. They're acting to some extent like a publisher, and because they're helping with placements, and that's really important. But if you really have a personal relationship and you're under contract with an actual publisher, and you have an account executive who's your publisher, who's taken a personal interest in the placement of your songs, that is just qualitatively, as opposed to quantifiably, it's qualitatively better.
Of course. But you have to start somewhere.
And what you're saying is a really good place to start. A really good place to start.
Audiosocket.com.
So that's how publishers work. And if anyone tells you you don't need one, don't listen to them. If you can get a good publisher, get a good publisher. But thanks for that plug. That makes sense. I will check them out as well. Next mistake is yours.
If I had a booking agent, I would get much better gigs.
I love that one. I know that one. Tell us why that's bad advice.
It's bad advice because you need to be able to draw people to your gigs. And you've said this many times before. Having good music isn't enough. It's just the entrance to everything else.
It's, what do I call it? It's it's just the price of admission.
Yeah. So, for example, I've worked with artists and they say, "Can you help me find a booking agent?" And I say, "Well, how many people are you drawing to your gigs now? And how often do you gig? And where do you gig? And how many people are on your mailing list? And how many people follow you on Facebook? And what's your Twitter feed look like? And how's your YouTube channel?" And they say, "Why are you asking me all these things? I just want to find a booking agent to get me gigs." And I have to explain that a booking agent isn't going to book you just because you're good. They want to know that you can bring a crowd. And they're going to look for some type of indicator to show them that, in fact, you can draw 100 people on a Thursday night.
Right.
Because otherwise, they lose all credibility the next time they try and bring a band into whatever venue if you've totally just blown it on your gig.
Right. I mean, I agree. When I was a kid, all I wanted was to have a band that was booked through Pretty Polly, because I just loved the name of that agency.
It's still around.
And it never happened for me, but we taught ourselves how to fill a room. And it's the secret that I said. We'd call everybody starting on Thursday. But I'll tell you, once I had a great agent. I went to her because I was playing blues. I was playing the blues show all around. And I went to her and I said, "Please book me." And she goes, I can't. It's not, the show's not right. It's not right. And then I said to her, and this is the advice I would give, if you're looking to get an agent and you're not successful yet, I would give this advice. Tell that agent, tell me everything I need to do to start to get booked.
Absolutely.
And that's what I did with her. And it took about a year or so for me to follow her advice and do everything she told me to do. And to the point she goes, "All right, you're fine." And then she started to book me at shows in colleges in a certain sort of demographic. Not, I ended up doing a lot of shows for the parents of kids when they were entering the school for the convocation week. So everybody's on campus, but I'm playing classic stuff for the parents. I made so much money and made a lot of people happy, and I wasn't ready until she taught me that I was ready. But I only got to that place because I asked her, tell me exactly what to do to be worthy of you booking me.
The corollary or the addendum is nothing will make you more successful than success. If you play a bunch of small gigs but you fill them every time, that's how you're going to get a slightly bigger gig. And if you fill those, and if you sell, if you sell more at each gig, if you just worry about being successful and doing everything you can first, and the right people will find you.
Okay, I mean, that's awesome. Listen, I've been notified by the authorities that we have to conclude this episode number 2 of Beneath the Hedgehog, and move on to other things. So let me just say that this is Behind the Hedgehog.
Beneath.
Oh, that's right. Did I say behind?
I think
All
you
right.
did.
This is our second program. We have Behind the Hedgehog. This is Beneath the Hedgehog.
Yes.
This is Series 1, Episode 2. And it stars the wonderful Scott Feldman.
That's me.
And myself, Ricky Berger. It's produced by Scott Feldman and myself, Ricky Berger. It's engineered by Ricky Berger, and with the expert internship advice and consent and work by Adam Einstein over in the corner, helping us with everything that we do. Thank you, Adam. And we're produced by Dinsdale Media Group. This is Radio Dinsdale. Please sign us off, Scott.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.